Ladies and gentlemen, what's good? We're back with another Call of Duty Mobile video. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day today. It's that time of the season once again, coming at you guys with our top 5 guns in Call of Duty Mobile. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Bobby, we don't have the Dingo yet. There's no way we can make the list. Well, apparently nobody waits for new guns to come out to make their top 5 guns anymore, so whenever we drop our Dingo video, I'll let you guys know whether or not I feel like it fits into our top 5. In this season's video, we have a lot of honorable mentions, so for all intents and purposes, this is basically a top 10 guns. I just didn't really know how to order the first 5. First up, we got the HVK. This is an assault rifle that was already really solid with a large caliber magazine. Last season, it got a buff to the magazine size, and this season, it got another buff to a couple of different multipliers to make it incredibly consistent in 3-tapping. This has a much faster rate of fire than any of the 3-tap assault rifles in COD Mobile, and because it already has a solid BSA score, the HVK is an absolute monster, and you can really use it at any range as well. Obviously, the large caliber ammo is a must-have for the HVK because you do get that damage boost, and this is one of the few guns that I don't mind throwing the combat stock on because it has such good bullet spread accuracy, and we do want to maximize the range as much as possible, but we don't sacrifice too much for the combat. Coming up next, we've got the Fennec. This is a gun that was buffed last season. It has been really solid in the game for a really long time and was only lacking in a couple of categories, but once again, with a couple nice multiplier buffs, this thing is now able to 4-tap, and because it has by far the fastest rate of fire in the game, the 4-tap time to kill is around 160 milliseconds, which absolutely dwarfs any of the meta guns that you guys are going to see. On top of that, because the rate of fire is so fast, if you need 5 shots to kill, the time to kill only moves back to 216 milliseconds, which is basically identical to that of the CBR whenever you're 4-tapping, which is also not guaranteed. This is the perfect objective player gun. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it if you want to play passive and play lanes, but if you're an ultra aggressive player, this is the gun for you. If you're looking for an easier to use Fennec build, this is definitely a solid option, since the operator foregrip is going to help decently with the vertical recoil, but if you want to go full aggro, swap it out for the no stock. Next, we got another gun that got a big buff this season. 4 meters of first range damage on top of a big bullet spread accuracy buff. The DRH is most definitely back in the meta. With this buff, there is no question the DRH is the best 3-shot AR in COD Mobile, and while you will need to be accurate still, all you really have to do is make sure you don't hit 3 shots to the legs in order to guarantee that 3-shot. Thanks to a couple of the buffs, it is also easier to 3-shot further out as well, which makes this not only a dominant close range option, but viable in the long range as well. Because of the BSA buff, you can throw on the no stock as well as the monolithic suppressor without really losing out too much on the DRH, which will allow you to dominate both in the close range and the long range. Our last honorable mention is going to go to what I would consider currently the best LMG in the game right now, although that could very soon be replaced by the Dingo. It's going to go to the Holger. As always, the Holger is one of those ease of use guns that pretty much anybody is going to be able to use. It's got a 100-round base mag, pretty minimal recoil, and a no stock that gives you crazy amounts of strafe speed that can compete with some of the best ARs in the game. The Holger is a fantastic option if you just want to sit back, spray and pray, and see what can happen. LMGs are still able to get the most out of the disable perk. That's why I prefer to run it on my Holger build. But if you're a free-to-play player, subbing out the disable for a red dot's definitely worth it because this is one of the uglier iron sights that you're going to find. But moving on to our top 5 guns in the game right now. Coming in at number 5, got a pretty small buff this season. A small buff to the hit flinch and also a slight buff to the range of the weapon as well, but it was close enough to the top 5 that I felt like it pushed it inside, especially because we're lacking a truly crazy aggressive option. In my opinion, the Switchblade is back in the top 5 guns in the game. The beauty of the Switchblade is it's one of those few weapons that's actually better with the base version than the Mythic. Because of that, this is the perfect option for aggressive players that are free to play as well. And unlike the Fennec, it doesn't have a whole lot of recoil either. So even though it has slightly more horizontal, it's going to have way less vertical recoil, which makes it a lot easier to control. It might not be meant for every map, but especially if you're an objective player that's typically playing on the inside of some tight corners, the Switchblade is the gun for you. To me, the 10% range boost just doesn't feel like it's as worth it when it comes to using the monolithic suppressor on the Switchblade, which is the reason that I prefer the tactical suppressor instead. At number 4, we've got a gun that has been in our top 5 for well over a year at this point. I don't know if it's ever going to make its way out, to be honest. COD Mobile seems pretty content having it be the long range king of COD Mobile. Mobile, those of you who watch the COD Mobile Championship saw this get used a lot, is the SKS. Now, this is a gun that in the hands of the right player has the potential to be the #1 gun in the game, but because it's not super versatile and isn't necessarily the best possible gun whenever it comes to rank play, I can't really justify putting it any higher. Obviously, the one tap to the head potential for the SKS from anywhere on the map is its one biggest upside, and regardless of how far away you are, you can always potentially 2-tap as well. Obviously, the big downsides being it does have a low rate of fire. If you build it out to be accurate, it's not going to be super mobile, and it gets a lot tougher to use when you get into the close ranges because it's not nearly as forgiving. With that being said, when it comes to a passive playstyle, there's absolutely no question the SKS is the best option in COD Mobile. And for a nice in-between of having solid accuracy while at the same time having mobility, I like to run this for my SKS build. Coming in at number 3 is another weapon that we saw used very specifically in the World Championships. We've talked about it a lot before, and it's been in our top 5 for quite a while. It's going to be the Kilo 141. I would say this is next up when it comes to dominating in long-range competition, and to be honest, if you are a lower-skilled player that just wants to spray and pray, then the Kilo is going to be a better option for you than the SKS. The reason the Kilo is still so good is just because of pure consistency. As far as up-close time to kill, it's going to be by far the slowest of any gun on this list. It no longer really has that potential time to kill upside by landing a headshot anymore either, but because it has very little recoil and insane bullet spread accuracy, on top of the fact that it can be built out pretty well for a number of different playstyles, the Kilo for quite a while and probably for a while in the future is going to remain inside of our top 5. I know a while ago I talked about Tectonic's Kilo build and what he used in the World Championships, and while I do think it's a really good option, I prefer to go with a little bit of an in-between that gives you slightly more mobility. That's why I make sure to keep the no stock on mine. If you are going to be using one of the base versions with a default iron sight, I recommend sacrificing the no stock for a red dot instead. Coming up at number 2 is a gun that outside of the SKS has probably spent more time in our top 5 than any other gun in the game. It was number 1 for quite a while, got a nerf, and then COD Mobile said, you know what, let's bring it back. It's going to be the CBR. There's absolutely no question the CBR is the most versatile SMG in the game, with a rewarding up close time to kill if you can land upper body shots, and long range viability as well with very little recoil and pretty solid bullet spread accuracy, especially for an SMG. There's not a whole lot of downsides for the CBR. Another one of the big upsides that doesn't really get talked about a whole lot is that the base version of the CBR, especially to me, feels better than the Mythic version. So whereas for a lot of the other guns on this list, you're gonna probably want to buy a better version of this skin in order to achieve a better iron sight, the CBR iron sight is very, very clean, feels incredibly smooth when you're using it, and really doesn't require any other skin. In fact, the other skins that do have digital iron sights actually are a little bit shakier and make it tougher to aim. So because of this, especially as far as free-to-play players go, I would consider the CBR to be the best gun. I like maintaining my strafe speed as much as possible, so I do like to run the light stock while we go with the marksman barrel on the CBR. But obviously we do have to take into consideration all possible advantages, and because of that, the Krig 6 with the Mythic skin is the #1 gun in COD Mobile still. There's nothing surprising here. The majority of the time whenever we get new Mythics in the game, those Mythics tend to dominate for quite a while. Obviously that's not always going to be the case, but the Krig 6, because of its achievable 3-shot time to kill, is phenomenal up close while at the same time being viable at range because of its low recoil. It can also be built out to be extremely aggressive, which makes it more of an AR SMG hybrid than a real true assault rifle. And obviously the one major downside that it does have is the fact that it does have bullet speed, which means it's not hit scan like a lot of other weapons on this list, like the SKS, the Kilo, the CBR, etc. With that being said, the Krig 6 is still solid even if you don't have the Mythic version. I would recommend throwing a red dot on there. I'll be sure to throw up builds for both free-to-play and Mythic players. Like I said, if you are purely free-to-play, I would recommend going with the CBR. Yes, it's going to have slight downsides, but overall, the free Krig 6 is still not too far behind. I'd say for free-to-play players, this is the best go-to Krig, because while you do sacrifice some mobility with the firm grip tape, you do have better overall accuracy, which in the long run is going to be worth it. But if you're pay to win like me, then with the grip tape, you get the best of both worlds. Hope you guys enjoy the video. If you do me a huge favor, drop a like down below, subscribe if you haven't already. We'll be sure to let you guys know where the dingo falls in our top 5 as well, and we'll see you guys in the next one.